Buenas tardes. Nos encontramos en la segunda
Evening.
semana.
This is the second week about forest and matter, and it is open program. And this evening we will carry on with the architects Carmen Torres and Pau Sarquella. We just witnessed a selection of video creations that showcase the poetic strength of trees, devoted to a Polish artist, Cecilia Malik, that introduced this 365 trees work. She's an educator, a performer, an urban activist with a PhD of cultural studies, and she was born in Krakow. She's also the creator of Alchem Blue Collective, and she's one of the starters of Polish Matters Understand. And she says, since 25th September 2009, I just climb a tree, different trees, all days, every day of the year. I was looking for the context. I look for the clothes in order to strengthen the contrast. While I was climbing trees, I lived the reality with all my senses. But the image that was created very frequently became something very, very real. Now we are going to listen a conference with a title that has a kind of a surrealistic, a lot of blinders, a pork and a hat, from ephemeral architectures that are transformable from the collective imaginary towards contemporary representations. Carmen Torres and Pau Sarquella, they create several programs towards the creation of projects. Sarquella and Torres is an office of architectures by Pau Sarquella and Carmen Torres. Both studied at the High School of Architecture in Barcelona in 2011. And after 4 years in Southeast Asia, always committed towards teaching at the International Program of Design and Architecture of the Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, they, well, decided to come back to Banyolas. Today, they are completing their teaching profession together at the ESAP, the University of Girona and La Salle University, developing projects that explore the organic ability between limits amongst disciplines of design, creating new thinking through practice. They see the location as a peripheral location, which is a great opportunity for them to face in a cross-related manner all the projects. They escape from conventions. They created several projects that show quite a big level of coherence in the collective imagination through contemporary interpretations. Amongst them, the projects we have Bang Nong Sing Kindergarten, which is the FAD award for the opinion audience and a mention of the jury, the Battery German Soler, and also platforms and the Hack Word. Pau is the co-writer of the Blinder in Barcelona. It is a redesign of the blinders that has been a recurrent product for many national architects. This product has been awarded with the first prize of Archiproxima 2016 and with a Silver Delta award by ADIFA. Now we are going to listen to their message.
Bueno, perfecto. Pues nada.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrea, for this kind introduction. Thank you very much to Bunka Foundation And Ramon, Rafael, and Karma, thank you very much for this amazing invitation. It's a pleasure to be amongst you today to share this minute to let you know one of the projects that we developed in such an amazing environment, this workshop, these conference cycles, which is kind of a tradition in a lot that bring to a lot of such interesting people such as Benedetta, Sao Suzuki, and suddenly and abruptly ourselves, which is a very tiny architecture studio, very local studio. Um, and we are so thrilled to be with you. And we suffer kind of a pressure because we need to talk about beauty today. It's kind of a tense topic. I want you to know our context. We just finished our degree once the crisis began in 2008. And you know everything, right? You know, the rest is history. It was kind of, let's say, lethargic process, and the new architects, they had to face this situation. And after 2 years finishing our studies, we were invited by a firm of architects in Granada, and it was a very special situation. And when you finish the university, you need to learn in order to relearn. And that forum to us was very important, and it was quite similar to us. I remember that the previous days before the forum, we tried to guess and to research how other young architects they developed their studies. I remember telling Pau, what a weird thing. We cannot see anything about architecture. There is kind of a bicycle, which is a kitchen, a huge alphabet made in cardboard, a letter to a minister. Very weird stories in such a complicated period of a crisis. And in reality, we went there. It was an amazing experience. We radically changed because project after project they were sharing with us, and a million of ideas appeared. People from all over the Iberian Peninsula, coming from Madrid, from Alicante. It was kind of a spark of energy, and we could see different lines and different approaches toward architecture. It was a kind of an heterogeneous way to embrace architecture. It was crystal clear to us that everything was architecture. It was crystal clear that everything was so beautiful. And when we conclude the Congress, such as we had an anecdote, a conference, a lecture by Alberto Campos Baeza, he talked about a huge house that he built for a very wealthy family. The first line of the sea, they were in the terrace, a very flat line in towards the horizon for you to get connected with the sea. So the building was amazing and a very clear idea about the project. And the conference was called Seeking Beauty. And for you to know why we created this our studios, Andrea mentioned before, we were for 4 years living in Bangkok. Bangkok, which is a metropolis, it's a huge city. It is so crazy, 11 million people. You never see the end of the city, loads of towers and skyscrapers. And this is not the real image that we have from Bangkok. This is the idea of very tense, very chaotic, loads of traffic jams, very noisy, colorful, atmosphere pollution, everything very visual. And we were fortunate enough because we were there at the Silicon University, which was an oasis in the middle of the metropolis. What an amazing place to be. And we taught in different projects and in a very international environment, very young environment. We had many things to share, and we were very interested to know much more about urban culture. And beyond these very interesting projects we were involved with, there were like parallel cities. One of these parallel cities was the INDA parade, which was the festivity at the end of the year. We had the final reviews, we had also conferences, lectures, awards. It was an amazing event that lasted for a whole week. And this was not made inside the university. In such a manner, they tried to look for outer spaces, outdoor spaces in the city. And well, it was celebrated at the Makassar airport link that was a very important transportation hub in the middle of the city, and it never worked as a hub. It's a very a new, a recent building, a huge infrastructure that has been misused. It was terrible, but we had the opportunity to have the event there. This was a regular. It's a huge building, well, an empty building, and well, we could celebrate in a whole week there. We had to create a strategy to get the appropriation of the space and also to develop all the activities that were scheduled. Thus, we had a wall system, very thin cardboard walls interconnected in a perpendicular manner, creating a zigzag, and they were like isolated elements. We had an exhibition area with a very tiny falls where we showcase selected projects. On the other hand, there were other structures that were folded as a corner reviews with the same cardboard panels, creating a bigger corners where we introduced the projects by the end of the year in front of the jury together with the students. And there are other pieces of furniture made by cardboard that really help to give some support, such as tables, blueprint models, projection screens. We did it in order to create these point wood structures with different um, gaps that allowed you to fix the cardboards with different positions. This is a detail that you can see. Two cardboard panels. Well, it was like a bee a hive panel. They were together with these fixed elements. And well, you can see the walls, linear walls, furniture, and the walls were linear, and in the other side we had like buttresses that allowed us to create more stability through the elements. And little by little, putting together different cardboard panels, we created separate spaces with different corner reviews, conference rooms, an access, a hall. And here you can see, once it was already structured, once the students came, they hung all the content. This was the exhibition area, yes, and this was the review area with a jury, student of us that, well, introduced the project in front of a jury. Very simple model, very cheap, reusable. It's very easy to build because the cardboard could be used to have a project later on. So we created this tiny city made with a cardboard, and we were able to get inside the Makahanet for Link, this huge hub. And after Bangkok, we come to Banyolas. Well, for those that do not know Banyolas, Banyolas is a very tiny city, 35 kilometers from Ulot. It's smaller than Ulot. It's half size of Ulot for you to have an idea, and it has an amazing lake, very beautiful. So everything is compensated. And beyond that, in Banyolas, as well as in very tiny cities and villages of the region, people, they feel that they belong to this place, and there are loads of cultural activities at the local level. So this is something that we really appreciate, and we want to participate and get involved in cultural life. Last year, we participated in a yearly conference cycle organized by the City Council. There were several architectural conferences together with Pau and Mark Riera, which is a very popular architect. We collaborate quite regularly with him and Thomas Grau, Gerard Monet, Mariera, and many others, four architects that built very, very intensely in Banyolas during the 20th century. So the city was created not only through their work, but also thanks to them. And by the end of the conference cycle, we researched, we looked to the archives, private archives. We had such a big amount of information and never published information. It was like a pity to us to close everything in a file in an archive. So we suddenly realized that we had to move forward. Thus, we proposed to the city council to create an exhibition with all this content. And it also happened that we had this building in Banyolas, the Moblas Taradas building. It is a building from 1973-74, if I'm not mistaken. It was an old warehouse of furniture that was made by Noni Muner, one of the four architects, but it had been closed for over 15 years. And 2, 3 years ago, it was acquired by the city council, but it was closed. And the city municipality didn't know what was the purpose and the usage of the building. And this building was very weird. It's quite an interesting building because the building is in a very uh, populated area in Banyolas, a very long area that united two proprieties, one side of the street, the other side of the street. It was a very long building that goes from one side of the block to the other side of the block. And beyond that, the most interesting strategy and what we discovered in 1973 was that for this to be a commercial space, it offered an alley to get connected amongst both sides of the street. So we had the biggest showcase of the city, 300 meters of showcase in the city, and it connected, it cut the length of this block, and it allowed to improve pedestrian with circulation with this space that connected the square of the Rodas where the weekly market is held. Thus, we asked to the city council to reopen this space to make this exhibition. Well, they didn't have a place to have the exhibition. It was created from scratch, and they said yes. Municipalities said yes, and we had to create it a very simple system, very cheap system to have this exhibition. And we created with a different metal bars. We created these different 6 horizontal bars. It was like a pentagram, well, an octagram because they 6, and it was like a trestle made of folded steel bars. And from the bars we hung some hooks and all the plates that we wanted to exhibit. So it was very easy to create this exhibition, and we order chronologically all the works of different architects that were overlapped one with the other, and some of them they were mixed. We began with the Beaux-Arts style in the 50s, then we started with the rationalism. In the 70s we had like a heritage revival of the city, and around the 80s and the 90s we had the huge Olympic Games projects because Bañolas was also city where the Olympic Games were held. And in reality, this was very easy. It was an amazing building, the structure of the showcase with all the elements and the lighting was perfect. We could close the exhibition and you could walk through the exhibition and you could visit the exhibition from the street. It was very simple and very easy. But also the most important thing was that we reopened this alley that was this passageway that was closed for more than 15 years. And in reality, to us, the most successful part of the project was to be able to get the city council that this was ideal and it was amazing to reopen the building. And mainly, right, this is an image of 1973, and this is an image that we took after the exhibition. It is a very beautiful, very modern building of that time, and we still think that it's an amazing building today. It's kind of an Asian building, and we had to understand that the adequate use was to have exhibitions inside. And we had other exhibitions there, such as the Gigants and Capgrossos, and also the architecture of Giuseppe Nia's exhibition. And it was amazing because the city council is committed to make this building uh, to transform this building in an art center. So we like global things, but we are interested in local things, right? We were abroad, but now we are very locally based. Now, let's start the conference and the lecture, and it's divided in three main blocks. Many blinds, a pig, and a hat. And we will share with you some of the projects that are intertwined with all the stages of the presentation. Well, many blinds. The facades of Barcelona, like other Mediterranean cities, whether facing the street or the interior courtyards facades, they are full of many traditional roller blinds, such as the ones you have in this image. They belong to our collective memory that we have in these cityscapes. And these are amazing when they protect the sunlight. We can see the tangential views, and also we have a perfect ventilation. Our obsession with this kind of blinds started in 2009 with the word made by the FAT. They asked to improve 10 different corners of Barcelona. Together with Diana Oson, we participated in the first one, which was located in the Raval neighborhood in the city center. A set of narrow and dark streets were the place we needed to improve. It was a very difficult, very narrow streets, with not too many light, very difficult to circulate through. At our visit, we found out that the majority of people living there, they hung the streets in the balcony and in the windows. Well, in order to avoid the water from the top floor neighbors or from the rain, all kind of dirty plastics were hanging from the top of the openings. You could find these plastics, some of their shower curtains or tablecloths, any kind of plastics that we saw in the streets, and it was reproduced all over the Raval area and in many other neighborhoods of Barcelona. That's when we found more careful neighbors that put a blind overlapping louvers to keep the landscape of the city, and improving the traditional blind, we will be able to solve this problem. And the proposal of this award was to overlap different louvers to make water to get down the water, and offering this cross ventilation to these spaces. Well, with this proposal, we won the competition. We talk about 2010. It was in 2010, and we developed that. It was a crisis period, and the product didn't exist, but we were very stubborn with Diana, and it was a great idea. And we visited where this kind of product was manufactured, and we knew that it was manufactured in Soria. Why in Soria? Because they have the forest with these pine trees that grows very slowly, and it takes a long of time, and they have a mechanical resistance very high. And the cooperatives that produce these blinds. They are in different villages, and in the end, we found a cooperative that wanted to collaborate with us. And after insisting and making loads of prototypes, we found a section, very old machines that produced, and we had these different slates, and they folded, and we were able to produce with this design. We copyrighted these blinds. You can see that we added this structure for water to get through, and how can we develop different slates. And this is compared with a traditional slates and traditional blinds. The only thing that we got was sun protection, but not water protection. Once we had the blind, we realized that due to the different slates, once it's in a vertical position, the inner part of the house was darker. And once you put it in a diagonal, it allowed lights to get in the house, keeping, as we said before, these waterproof qualities. So in the end, it was an accumulation of different slates, and you could turn and you could change the level of opacity. Once we had the blinds, we had to look for colors and what would be the chart. And we realized that the best thing would to look for the colors in the city. That's why we visited modernist houses to pick the colors of the blinds and to collect and to change the blue of traditional by the Yo Morera green, the green from the Mila house, and also from other buildings. And we realized that from a commercial perspective, will have a great impact. Once we had everything, we trade with this kind of, as they were held in ironmongers and in many other places. Well, we realized that it was not good enough, and they reduced the quality of the materials. That's why we picked a great wood. And once we had everything, we needed to give a name, because we had the Alicante and the Mallorca blinds, the Venetian blinds, all related, and once had to be Barcelona blinds. In 2014, 5 years later, since the creation of the idea, we were lucky enough, because Ferran Amat loved the product, we introduced the blinds in the old patio at the Vinson store. And we showed this structure with an scaffold system showing all the colors of different blinds to show what we wanted to sell from that moment on. In the end, we wanted to put under the space a small exhibition that talked about the project that we developed for more than 4 years and what made us to produce these blinds. And the patio, the courtyard inside Vincent's store, it was an amazing place to showcase the blinds, because this space was surrounded by these blinds. In the end, what we really wanted was to look for a reference and to create this installation. And we realized that the Vinton House was where years ago lived the amazing painter, modernist painter Ramon Casas. And in that same place, he painted these very popular pictures, these plein air pictures, always protected by these blinds. The challenge here was to know how, through these different paintings and pictures, how to recreate the same atmosphere with the same size of blinds that the ones that Ramon Casas painted in the past. For more than 8 years of its presentation, well, we are very proud to see that this Barcelona blind is spreading around the region, and it belongs to many and amazing projects. It's great to work with them and to research and to work with them and to see. And I think that some of the architects are here today with us. But not only other architects play with our blinds, obviously we try to develop other projects with the blinds in order to go beyond the Barcelona and to know what can we do with the blinds. Maybe you know these drawings. You can see that there is like a platform, a Mayan temple. These are drawings by John Woodson. He explains the amazing emotion that he had uh, inside the dense and dark jungle in Mexico once he climbed these platforms, these temples, these Mayan temples, and he turned around and he was able to see the infinite, the sky, and how light overwhelmed everything. And suddenly he realized that there was another ceiling, a ceiling made by clouds, not only the trees, but the ceiling of the clouds. And John Hudson used this topic to create many of his projects. And well, when we were still in Bangkok, a friend of us, Jaume Casas, as you can see in the picture, it's a meat company in Banyolas during the Gastronomic Forum in Girona, which is a food fair, wanted to showcase the product and to welcome his customers. As you can see in his website, what he really wants to convey and what they want to convey about the company, it is the relationship that they have with the place. It was very difficult to get this idea and how to convey in such as a very noisy place, not only from the acoustic but also visually. There is an extreme noise in that trade fair. We had to look for the element that we will be using to create this space for the customers to eat. And we picked the material from the country houses, big Catalan country houses, usually in the lower levels of these country houses. That's where you can find many restaurants, and in these basements that usually were the place where the stock was there, and now we have amazing rooms and people can eat under these arches. This space, these dining rooms, it was the element that we wanted to bring to the food fair, and it was very difficult to get this kind of ceramic and tiles for such 4 days events, and we had to change the material. And well, the material that we had, it was very close to our materials. We knew we had wanted to play. The blinds were fantastic through this structure and to create this geometry that made us to think about these restaurants and these old country houses. And well, this was repeated and we created this blind, and under the ceiling, well, we had enough these vaults where the customers from Carnes Villa, they could eat under these vaults and to taste this meat. And these black and white areas were small stands for sellers and for a great wine pairing between meat and wine. The structure of vaults, it was a very repetitive structure that allowed to think if next years they wanted to repeat this same stand, they could bring it there, or if they wanted to go to another trade fair, they could build it again and again. Well, the sellers, the wine sellers and winemakers, despite they were in the lower part of the buildings, we wanted to participate under these ceilings made by blinds, and they would be protected with these higher ceilings. Well, where the customers ate, it was a lower with a lesser direct light, trying to look for comfort for customers, for them to be calm, relaxed, and tasting the meat. So in the end, beyond the vaults, the place could be very similar to an amazing restaurant, which is the Jardinetta restaurant, where the light comes from the trees, and it would be very similar to the filtered light that we had in this platform. And in the end, Cansvilla customers, they will offer the meats looking like Hudson was looking to the jungle. And this stand was an amazing place. It was very interesting because another company, Ben and Jerry, next year they wanted to have a very similar stand. And we said, well, they're equal to the same. No, we couldn't build it. Otherwise, the Cansvilla customer would be fed up. We were lucky enough because Jen and George's stand, as you can see, it was in front of the stand of Carnesvilla. We were lucky enough. So we created this relationship of such an amazing project. It was very similar, but Jotri, it's also a family owned company. You can see her now and Trini, and the product that they sold, it was a huge catalog of pre-cooked dishes for restaurants in the area to buy them and to cook more rapidly. It is a catalog that has classical dishes such as meat cannelloni or gazpacho croquettes, which is a kind of an exotic. And in the end, Jodri company, they needed a big kitchen to cook all the dishes of the catalog. Also, they needed a show cooking to showcase the speed to cook, and also the biggest amount of surface to distribute all along the bars, to have tables for customers to get there, like in a very small restaurant, to taste the dishes that this company produces. Well, you can see that the kitchen was in the middle of the stand, the show cooking was in front, and also this raised a platform above 1 meter of the floor surrounding the stand, offering the biggest amount of surface to put the guests in. And this raised the surface, the platform had a wall that to us was very important. We wanted to convey something. In the end, we wanted to showcase these dishes and plates to tell that it was a ready-made dish company with talking about this cartuja cutlery and plates and ceramics with these amazing landscapes that they always try to represent. We were able to make them into recipes, all the catalog of different dishes of a Queen's Jotri that were all over the stand. Those dishes, well, and they were elongated. It was like a very explicit reference about what we can see here in this Dali painting. But the stand needed also a ceiling, and obviously we used also these blinds. And following other archetypes of roofs in a two double, it was very interesting to see how through geometry we were able to reach this balance with this central that well, they had this aura with this light, like reproducing the last supper of Jesus Christ during this forum, gastronomy forum. Well, other stands that we had in trade fairs, the idea comes from this kind of beds. They are very simple structures with different fabric uh, layers that allowed to have some comfort in a bigger space. The project for these stands, it was a Barcelona, Catalonia, and we had to make it during the fair MIPIM in Cannes for the Catalan government and the Barcelona's town hall, and also for the metropolitan area. We did it together with our dear friends and artists Forma, and in this trade fair they wanted to promote public surface for foreign investors to develop projects in the region. So the booth was going to be placed at the basement of Palace in Cannes, where many small and large columns could be found. Very different distribution of columns and different heights and It was very difficult to create a fair there, and the project, as I said before, it stems from a table because the customers, they wanted to tell that Catalan they went there to Cannes to work. They had the 13 working tables plus a networking area. We were aware about the noise of the trade fairs, right? And the idea was very rapid. We wanted to turn this table in this bed table with blinds, this canopy table that allow us to open in such a roller wooden blinds. And the booth was divided into 3 different locations. And in order to include these canopy tables, we wanted to expand like a grid of the Shambler neighborhood. And by the end of the stand, they collided as nothing happened and they get adapted. And beyond that, we did not only have the fair obstacles, we decided to put more obstacles because the stand had to be an exhibition space and we had to get some curve walls in order to limit some of the exhibitions that needed to be introduced. The table system, walls and columns, it was, well, quite an interesting and infinite expandable system. It would be a system that will allow us to bring the project everywhere, and it was the final project. You can see the different grid, how it collided with walls, creating erratic walls and columns, and also looking inside a very homogeneous space, a new ability to create this a very tiny city. Here you can see the exometry, how the tables, they get inside walls and it creates this kind of situations. It was created in 2020 and last March we were able to broaden this grid of tables at the basement of the Palais, tables that were, well, had to overcome columns and walls, but nothing happened. Well, that's creating exhibition spaces, more hidden spaces, trying to get separated from the neighboring spaces and to stop the noise and the agitation of the trade fair, and also creating loads of working spaces. That's what the customer asked for. And another trade fair in Munich, Expo Real, we were able to project these canopy tables. As in Cannes, they were expanded to get adapted to geometry and to the space that we got. It was an easy space, 12 by 12 meters with 3 streets, very visible, and well, with neighboring areas, the space had higher ceilings. The booths, they got advantage to create more visual, to put brand names, to put logos, to put color, and to put graphic images, and creating a new space, which was very difficult to work in for our customers to get together and to get concentrated. So in the end, the idea was very simple. If we already have a canopy, why not to create a huge canopy that will protect it from the noise? And it was the same that happened with tables in different scales to create this grid of canopies inside another canopy. So it's like the babushkas and the Russian dolls. And obviously, with the height that we got there, we put the name and of the project, Barcelona and Catalonia. We put the logos, and at the entrance, you can see how the circular volume was one of the columns that we had in Cannes to create this warehouse. And the canopy, what really wants it is to separate from the neighbors to create this fourth facade and to understand that the volume of our booth, it is something separated from the rest of the trade fair. And this open space, it is the access space and also the exiting space, allowing lamps were like an object. Maybe it was like a light in the middle and a bulbs and the well, blinds were down till the morning. People from the stand raised the blinds to start a new working day, right? And here the last blinds. We said many blinds, right? This is the last project that we developed with blinds. It is an ongoing project, so we do not have the final project. This is a first floor house in Bañolas, and blinds they want to protect from the sun. We like to work, and here what we created it is to this translation of the blinds. We are creating like a pergola, which is a wooden blind, and in the end it was a system that allowed us to understand how this system worked, and we were able to create these different canopies that well creates this canvas canopy with the traditional system of the Mediterranean blinds, and we wanted to expand and to have this canopy in a different manner to be used by other architects. We have loved to show you the picture with the blinds, but this picture was taken last Friday. We're waiting for the blinds to be there, but you can imagine the pergola with the structure, and we're going to put there the blinds. Well, and the next part, a pig. Well, a pig. What do we mean? It can be literally a pig, but it has not to be a pig. I think that you witnessed that we use a lot of references, and we use many references and elements such as literary artifacts that allows us to create a narration, and we can be able to create new projects, and that really helps us to get together with the customers and users. And this is something that we repeatedly use. In one of the first works, it was a battery in a very small village in Girona. Well, we work inside of the butcher store. We structure this space. We get rid of some materials. We try to recover these ceilings and the walls. We wanted to recover, but the most funny thing of the project was to understand where it was placed. It was in a very small village in Selra by the road 66, which is the road that connects Ulot with the coastline by Bañolas, and it was the 66 road. Okay. And it was this building that you can see in the picture. It's not inside the village, but it's by the road in a quite a specific space. And from the outside, it's not visible that it was a battery. People from the village, they knew that it was a battery store, but people going to the beach, well, they didn't know it was a battery. So as it was a road, we took advantage of this topic, and we looked for different references of neons that you can find in American roads in the 66 route to let people know that we wanted to as well to bring this world toward our project. So we put this light in the facade, the back side, it was black, and it had to be yellow because we wanted to make the neon to be brighter. And the logo, it's a very abstract because it says so, and it has to do with the name of the battery, and it's only visible at night once you close this metallic door, which is a complement of the building. It's a sliding door. And also, we had available this wall from a material perspective. It was kind of amazing and it was so funny. You could see different textures, how time went by, and we wanted to keep it, and we wanted to keep it in the end and to strengthen that. So, well, we only applied some paintings and we took advantage of different colors here and there. And we also painted this tiny pork, this tiny pig. Yes, it was a pig, and it has to do with other symbols that we have in the Spanish roads, which are these bulls that were installed in Spanish roads in the 60s. And suddenly the battery became something more special. And not only a battery all along a road, but in another installation, in a flower installation that we had in Girona, Girona Temps de Flors. It's a festival in Girona with different installations with flowers in different old courtyards and streets. We wanted to take the thread of the history of the Girona history, and once the French they sieged the city in the 12th century, and in the end they were able to get in the city, and they wanted to open the sarcophagus of San Narcissus, which was the patron of the city. And suddenly, when they opened the sarcophagus, thousands of flies attacked the French invaders. And suddenly, well, San Narcissus, we like to think that there are other methods for you to get protected from the insects, such as traditional curtains that you can see in the main doors in a village, and also the smell of lavender fields. And we wanted to create these lavender fields with the curtains that didn't allow flies to get in the courtyard. And we placed the curtains, and it was kind of a frame of the different heritage elements of the patios and the courtyards that you could visit. But also it was compulsory to interact with the curtains. You had to separate the curtains to open the curtains to see the lavender fields. It was not a naive gesture. It was a very precise and calculated gesture. We wanted the visitors to open and to interact the curtains, and not only to have a space for contemplation. We wanted an appropriation moment and the use of the space. Well, and also it was very funny because suddenly these spaces were like a photo shoot for people to take pictures. It was much before than Instagram appeared. Through this project, we were called from the Order of Architects to have the award Architects of Girona. Uh, we wanted to use this curtain element, very soft curtains, to have access to the exhibition. And this exhibition, we really liked it because it came from the observation of the AV, magazines that create this kind of collage, different to combine this fiction space with the also dreaming of an architect of mixing architectures from Greece, from the Ottoman Empire, Gothic architecture. It was like a fiction space inside a picture, and we decided to pick an image of each one of the projects and to print it in a big manner on plastic, and we wanted to hang it in a diagonal manner in opposition of this glass ceiling in the School of Architectures. So there were like zigzag spaces, And also, they could literally cross these spaces. So we desacralized the exhibition element. It was something more informal, and you could touch it, and it was very easy to get through. In the same space with the same glass ceiling, we produced a new installation, and we wanted to work with the reflections. In such a manner, we wanted to reflect the sky, which was the ceiling of this space. We created a steel table, there 6 meters of steel long, with metal slates of 3 millimeters. These plates created some concavity that could be filled with water and to create this reflection. We wanted people to participate in the installation, and we offered them a set like this origami narcissus, and once they uh, had it, they could put it in this artificial lake that we built in front of the building of the Order of Architects. And this created a very funny space for all kids, as you can imagine. But to us, the most pivotal moment was the moment when we made the offering and you reflected yourself in such a perfect mirror made by water. And in the end, we evoked the myth of Narcissus, in this case, another Narcissus, not the saint of the flies, the one that died. And we put half of the painting of Caravaggio, the other half was reflected on the water table to emulate this lake and the Narcissus myth. And another ephemeral installation inside Mallorca festival. It didn't have a motto of flowers or no. It was kind of a way to promote the downtown of the city of Mallorca, and they wanted to visit patios and non-accessible areas. This patio belonged also to the Order of the Architects building. It was a patio that usually was a parking spot, but it was very interesting. It was an heritage building with windows, blinds. You know that we love blinds, with the different hooks, this walled space, the palm trees. It was very beautiful, very interesting to us. And what did we do? Well, we wanted to create this kind of triangular artifact inside this space, which was quite big. Despite it was not very big in relationship with its space, but there were three main panels that had the same size of the wall that surrounded the space. And we covered, always working with this reflection ideas, we covered with this kind of a plastic mirror that reflected but also distorted the image, and it created, despite being in such a big patio, it was like a chameleon that created this kind of a camouflage because it reflected the walls of the building. It was not an static mirror. The panels could change. There was a main axis and it suddenly changed. So the wind made to change and the breeze of the sea, but also people pushing made the panels to showcase different images. And it really created like a kaleidoscope image that created very different feelings and images. This created a lot of interactions from the visitors. It was very easy to push it and to see yourself reflected on it, to take pictures. It was a very funny place to be in, and it was cool because people they push it, and in the end, what they did was to reflect the space, the palm trees, the windows, the walls, the arches, the walls of this amazing space. In this case, the peak was the space, the patio space. And coming back to the first project, the Inda Parade, the exhibition uh, space that we created in Bangkok. I want to recover this because there were some stories and some elements that were very clear to us that made some references to the city of Bangkok. It was a very long space. There was an entry point. On the one side, we had the exhibition, the conference areas, different spaces, and also, well, presentation, lectures, projects, exhibition, 300 square meters, right? It was a very linear space to us. That's the end. It was like thinking, it was like a street, like a Bangkok street, where the spaces, the stores and the stalls are very open towards the street, and there is like an appropriation of the use of the spaces outdoors with the stools, the tables, street food. You don't know what's the limit between the indoors, outdoors, or if the restaurant is inside the public space, outside the public space, the private space. So this connection between the public and private space, it was amazing to us, and we wanted in the end to showcase there. So these review spaces were not closed spaces. The review spaces were isolated from the other review spaces, but they were open towards the other spaces. Once you were in the exhibition, from this perspective, from this point of view, you can see what happened in the review spaces. Once you were in the review spaces, you were able to visit the exhibition, right? So you could see at the same time the exhibition, but also the review. What was happening in the review area may allowed you to see the exhibition. So it was like a mixture of both worlds, and this informality had a very important repercussion in the urban life and how streets were seen in Bangkok. Another important element, the signals of each and every one of these spaces with these vertical signs, which was a reference to us to Chinatown in Bangkok. And also this entry door of some of the streets, and we wanted also to have these entry stores with these folded uh, cardboard double level that welcomed you. But well, we were aware about this festivity moment together with the teachers, students, these boomerang videos to be in the social networks was kind of a naive moment, but very sweet as well. And now, if we do have time, I like to talk about not only one, but about the two hats. In this picture of the architectures by Bernard Rulowski, he says that the border between house and the landscape is very flurry. The empty could be baskets, could be atmosphere conditions, and the mobile ceilings can be like umbrellas and vice versa. So these Vietnamese people are transporting this roof of this house, leaving behind the walls. The importance of roofs. We continue here in Asia, in Japan, in Shirakago, in the center of the biggest island of the archipelago. These houses with these amazing uh, roofs, they need to be restored every 40, 50 years. All the neighbors in the village, they get together and in just one day, they are able to remake the roof. And at the end of the day, they have dinner together. So to us, this is a synonym of a community, how something that a roof can be community. And in this project in Palafrugell, in Sauleda village, it was a moment of loads of migrants came to the city, not only in Palafrugell, but also in other cities in Catalonia. They built this neighborhood with these blocks and with these self-built houses that didn't have, let's say, quality, inner quality. That's why, I don't know if you can see it here, that's why they left the community space, and the neighbors, they use it for many, many times as a town hall. This made at the city council in Palafrugell to launch an adaptation and a rehabilitation of the space, making this space to be a social space. And in 2014, they wanted to broaden this space. And together with Masriera, we won the competition, and we worked in the Sauleda project in Palafrugell. This had to be in front of the main building in this triangular square, and we picked the building, that the existing building, and we created another arm with the same meters together aligned with the being the most important street, the Carolet Street, that gets connected the main sport with this area of, and also to be always aligned with this gesture to create to outer space a public space, a civic space, a square space, and a meeting point, and a much more intimate space that will allow us to increase the square meters that were asked with this patio surface that can be made very easily thanks to our climate and weather. As you can see, the most fragmented part was already in the existing arm, offering multiple space with the new arms, like a new dining space for welcoming people. The patio could kept one of the could keep one of the trees of this place, because this patio looking southwest really needed these shadows, mainly for summer months. In the end, this new roof, what it did was to unite the older building with this new ampliation in 150 square meters that needed 150 square meters more. We didn't want to break the old building with the new building. So the roof, as you can see, it was a little bit more modern than the existing one, that folded in, creating like an origami, making this gesture. There was a new building, but also to allow light to get in these rooms and this new place that could be used by neighbors. One of the roofs, sorry, one of the walls of the building are mirrors that can appear and disappear. You can have exhibitions and physical activities and many others. The relationship with the space of the main hall and the patio was more than obvious, and it really allowed this space to be broadened towards the outdoors, not only in the multifunctional hall, but also the different access that were connected with the patio. Differently from the outer walls, were open towards the patio in order to visually add and especially add once we totally open the windows and to making the outer space to get in. And this was the city council was asking, and we could add it in the program. And also the blinds, these ceramical blinds that protected is from the sun in southern facade, were used as an access to put these letters that were shiny during nights and also fall in the floor, creating this circle carpet that dignified the space. The older pillar of the building, we left it without covering. Why? Because we believed that what we really wanted was to showcase the past. And the fountain that was at the access of the main building, we playing with ceramics like water, emphasizing the idea of community of this new building civic center. And the last hat, which is a real hat, the tie hat. It is an amazing hat, as you can see, made with vegetable fibers, very long wings. The most special thing is that the structure that holds it. It is a structure that can be separated. So head and hat can be separated, allowing the ventilation. And this, in such a tropical weather, it's very necessary to have this kind of ventilation. In a similar way, the rice paddy fields in Thailand, well, they are packed with this kind of very simple constructions that are called sala, and they simply want to get a race with a platform and to have this kind of uh, construction, these palafeaters that allows the agricultures to relax and to get calm and protected by the sun and the monsoon rains. A few months before coming back here, we had the chance to have a workshop together with the 21 students from our university, and we went to a very small village in eastern part of Thailand, close to Laos. The local school was colorful and very simple and needed an extension to offer some place to the smallest ones. They had class in the dining rooms. Well, we wanted to look for this tie hat with this cover, this open to get separated from the floor, from the walls that made the inner distribution, allowing this ventilation like a hat, but also with this roof that was elongated, looking this protection that offers the idea that the users of the building will be the youngest ones in the school, and this will allow us to protect more and much better from weather and rains and sun, tropical weather. There is also a solar chimney that allowed ventilation to work. The budget that we had came from sponsors and corporations from Bangkok was not enough to build everything that we were asked. They wanted to have 3 classrooms plus a teacher's room, and the budget that we had, well, was not enough. We could only produce a concrete platform for 2 classrooms and only 2 of the roofs that were needed. The space for teachers, well, it was like a tropical garden without a pavement. In the end, the structure that we had, it is a metallic structure that allowed this organic growth. Despite we were not the ones that will finish, will allow in the future when they will have more funds, they will build the roofs to finish the classrooms. It was a very similar idea like many houses that we can find in such as warm weather in Africa, where they leave the pillars waiting for the family to get more money and to have a second floor. Our students, they could be only in the village only at the first month of the construction, and in the moment where it was the monsoon, and the monsoon, well, the only possibility they could help us during these tasks to put the foundation of the building. Well, we wanted them to participate making more things of the building. That's why we created this canopy surrounding these roofs that allowed with this simple structure that was manufactured by students to increase the canopy surface to 140 square meters and 100 square meters more, or 50% of more space, very low budget, and made by our students and ourselves. It was very funny to see how when we were building these canopies, children, they went into the sports room that was occupied by some Bangkok students, and they were building something that they didn't understand. Students were able to finish the canopies before leaving towards Bangkok, and the canopies were in the sports room. This allowed us to build the roof With a very simple mechanism, we were able to hold these canopies that could be fold and unfold in a much more softer material, and it could be restored when it was needed. Beyond below the surrounding canopy, we found this bench, which was like a meeting point. People, they could sit under the shadow of the canopy, but also playing with this different level. It was a great place for kids to run, play, and to turn around during breaks and to run all over the place. Well, the canopy could be folded and also creating these access for kids and also for taller people. Everything that has to do with the canopies, it was not created by ourselves. It was something that we witnessed in all over Southeast Asia, in Thailand. It's very easy to find these kind of canopies. The stores, the stalls, such lively streets that come from these elements that are more fragile, more ephemeral, and they are able to occupy the streets to broaden the indoors towards the outdoors and to create amazing relationship, not only in stores but also in markets. So this collection of umbrellas, canopies that protected from the sun, but also from the rain. As we said, the solar chimney really helped the air to move, and we also understood that geometry of these classrooms should be circular for kids to run around and also to facilitate the movement of the air. The material that allowed us to build these classrooms was a very simple concrete block, concrete that was produced in the village, and also creating these windows that allowed air to get in and to get out, but also to have this cross vision between different classrooms and also creating new relationships between children to be seen and not seen. And before we concluded the project, we were lucky enough because we got more funds and we finally built a third roof, but not the walls of the classroom. To us, well, it was the happiest moment, the ideal moment of the project, where two indoor and outdoor spaces allowed us to make kids to get in and allowed also to have a bigger space, but also covered space where meetings and games and playing between students and teachers under these solar roofs that filtered light inside, and it was like a spark that illuminated the inner part of the space. The structure is there, and maybe someday they will be able to build this for cover and to change the tropical garden to have the teacher's room, and think that it will be possible in the future. It was also very interesting to discover together with Carmen in one of the oldest classrooms, we discovered this collage that was made by the children in the school. It was fantastic to us to think that after 4 years in Thailand, we had a very Thai building in the end. The thing, was argued with the school teachers. They believed that no, that our building was very, very European. I don't know if it was European or Thai, but in the end, what we really wanted was to emulate and to reproduce these salas that you can find all over the country. Let's see if it works, the video, and we are done.
your company. Tales just begun. Nowadays the waves red high as we crash on the ocean floor, dusting off the days of January when life was new and strange, taking us back for a change. So sweet to me, bringing treats back from the food trailer. Leave you a key, kicking back, feeling lazy. Tripping around the house, been away too long, spinning me all your life. No, I'm lost and nowadays you're still my partner in crime, my cherry line, shaking up the stereo with songs we used to know and sing, taking us back for a change.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Perdonad si se ha hecho un poco largo, ¿eh? Pero bueno.
Maybe it took longer than expected, but there were many, many blinds.
Bueno, ahora tenéis la oportunidad. si
And now
queréis.
you've got the chance to ask questions.
Los tenemos aquí.
They are here. Take advantage. Anyone wishes to ask a question?
Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros.
Thank you very much for being amongst us today. At the beginning, when you showed the different booths, you remember those booths? The dish, the plates, and also that house, the house that you are finishing now. I wonder, you are very strong with the colors. You play a lot with the colors. And now later I understood, right? Because we are not used to see these greenish, strong colors, red colors. But yes, you come from a country where color is very powerful. That's reality, right? Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. We were talking before with Andrea that we began a journey in Japan and we were stuck.
Claro, nos hemos llevado pues unos ambientes como una cosa como un poco más.
And well, the environment was very colorful and the noise and the visual, it's kind of an heritage that we brought with us and we use it properly and when it's adequate. to use it. But it's true, 4 years in Thailand, in the end, you get inside, you get immersed, the colors, the existing colors, the daily colors that you live. Yes, the color in Thailand, it is something that belongs to Thai culture. When you were born, depending on the day that you were born in the week, you get your color, and those colors you will bring it for all your life. That's how it is. And once there is a festivity, such as the king birthday, well, the king was born in a yellow day, and at the anniversary of the king, everybody were in yellow. And when the princess, it's a purple. Taxis are very colorful. It was very interesting. Once the king passed away, we were there. It was in 2010, 2017. 2017, the king passed away. The king that was in the power for more than 60 years. It was a very beloved person by the country. And for 1 year, well, they got privated from color and they were black. So the morning was also, you went to an ATM, it was black and white. They show the windows in the stores, they were black and white. The mourning and the grief, the whole country became something very, very different due to color. And as you said before, they, once there is a festivity, they put fabrics all over the street, all along the street, in the public transportation and people at home, right? The cities, they evolve and colors, they change relying on the week. It's a very joyful use. This, with the exception of the morning year. With this regard, these kind of things make you to go to Bragagan. Bragagan, everybody is Mexican, and it had this strength, right? Bragagan, well, this is what put as an architect into practice. Yes, in reality, color to us, it's not something that we imposed. To us, color, many, many times, it's like a context. They were not joking. To us, it was very Thai, the building, but to them, it was not very Thai. But to us, it was very, very Thai, or Thai-ish. We didn't invent anything. There were roofs like the ones they have there, the canopies like the ones they had there. We worked with a direct observation, existing things, everything already invented, and we wanted to create a more contemporary adaptation, more adapted to the concepts that we wanted to do. And in the end, well, in the end, we are reusing things that already exist, and they have their own laws. And in the end, well, one of the projects that we had, the Butcher color, it is a material that it's very cheap. We had to live in a moment, and the budget, well, are very limited. So how it was easy to change the atmosphere in a space, just changing the color and the atmosphere to us, it is something that it's more than obvious, and it's something that we try to develop. And the house that we showed you, how we play with color, the outer part, it's green, the patio, it's covered with this green material, and the inner spaces, the transition outer spaces, the gallery, the patios, they are also in green. So once you are inside the house, it's a white space and you will have this intermediate space. You don't know if it's in inner or outside. So in the end, well, the materials are different, different rules, different friends, different enemies. different colors, different compositions. I don't know if it's beautiful or not, but always looking for something that will allow us to play. Please ask something if you wish. Please go ahead. Don't be shy. Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. I really love the letters and the lettering to communicate. And I come from Chile, and you know, Chile, it is a country that suffers 9.8 earthquakes every 10, 20 years approximately. It is the third world. And I don't know if reality is similar to the Thai reality, but we have a lot of ephemeral architecture building, but not made by architects, but made by foundations, engineers, and clearly they don't have in mind a continuation, a follow-up, right? They build a loads of buildings, very similar to the Thai buildings, like the one you build in Thailand. They leave the structures for in the future to get built, and the future never comes. So I'd like to know if you'll talk maybe a little bit more about what in the end, what is the importance from the architecture and how to follow up and being there in the present, being there in the place, being there in that moment of time for things to happen on a long-term perspective and not just making things to be ready and never happen in the future. I think that there are two questions here. There is something more related with the kindergarten and relationship with the community. And also, there is another perspective, another approach that you mentioned in the beginning. We didn't go to Chile. We'd love to go to Chile, but maybe after your words, it would be a country where the outdoor spaces and the public spaces will be impacted by climate, and this may that people to be able to build these architectures, these ephemeral architectures that are built in the morning to have the stalls in the market. We also have markets with stalls here, but there it's more common to have in every corner these kind of stalls. So this self-construction that we had a few years ago, it's common there, much common there. In every corner you can find warehouses with loads of materials, stores, because everybody knows how to build tiny things. They had the experience, they know how to work with materials, how to build, how to raise and to make possible one of their ideas and to self-build. This architecture without architects, in the book of Bernard Rudowski, they talk about this vernacular and traditional architecture. With this regard, it's like an endemic architecture, an architecture that belongs to the place of the tools, of the elements and materials that come from nature, but also the ability that people has playing with the tools. And as for the community idea, building for communities, yes, in reality, it was a project that we built before we finished our period. And in reality, how to mobilize someone that will be able to develop and to build it in the future. It is important also to have a clear
Recording in progress.
Gestionarlo y que la afterlife, o sea, como que luego se vaya a utilizar de la manera que necesita la comunidad, ¿no? Porque si no, al final los proyectos de las comunidades pueden acabar siendo abandonados, si no es lo que la gente necesitaba, ¿no? No sé.
Yo creo que el momento de los obreros es un momento también muy interesante que explica también un poco lo que decíamos antes del propio país, ¿no? Son gente que son nómada, ¿no? O sea, no tienen una casa donde vuelven cada día, sino que se mudan al lugar de la construcción que en el mismo momento están haciendo cada vez, ¿no? Y fue impresionante ver cómo esta escuela, que se fue construyendo rápido para nosotros, porque al final fueron como 3, 4 meses de construcción, ellos en un día se construyeron su casa, ¿no? O sea, y justo al lado además del sitio de construcción. Y vivieron allí todos estos 4 meses. Comían insectos, la gente les iba a dar pollos, o sea, había como una relación entre los constructores y la comunidad que para nosotros fue muy interesante. Se hacían bancos con una raíz del propio árbol fantásticos, ¿no? O sea, había allí un conocimiento de una gente que evidentemente no tenía estudios, ¿no? Era una gente que había pues chupado toda su vida de poder construirse sus cosas, de poder montar realmente de modo espontáneo lo que ellos querían, ¿no?
Y luego que además era como súper importante su conocimiento, porque claro, nosotros el primer día dijimos, bueno, vamos a hacer una escuela de madera y nos dijeron, no, ¿sabes? O sea, como nos iban capando, porque literalmente es que no se podía encontrar madera a la venta para construir allí. Entonces, al final, el resultado es, o sea, con lo que literalmente encontramos en las tiendas de alrededor. O sea, es que no había margen de maniobra. Pero entonces, hay una cosa como curiosa que es como la informalidad en realidad es lo que hace posible estos proyectos, porque tú intentas hacer este proyecto aquí y es imposible, ¿no? O sea, es imposible gestionar en 3-4 meses la posibilidad de construir algo, o sea, de gestionar todas estas cosas y hacerlo posible. O sea, solamente para el permiso de construir es que sería como inviable, ¿no? Aquí el permiso de construir, pues la licencia, digamos, la firmó el director de la escuela, vamos a decir, y ahí está construido y no hay problema, ¿no? Pero bueno, sí, es como la informalidad o la carencia de mucha normativización permite que se puedan llegar a ejecutar cosas de estas que aquí requerirían como mucha más infraestructura para hacerlo posible.
Hola, bueno, yo más que una pregunta era agradeceros la presentación. Decíais al principio que os intimidaba un poco que la semana pasada habíamos escuchado por aquí a Suzuki o a Benedetta, o sé que otros años han estado sentados Nishizawa, bueno, grandes arquitectos, pero a mí sin embargo me ha encantado, me ha parecido muy inspirador cómo sacáis lo máximo de cada proyecto y cómo ponéis en valor desde una carnicería de carretera, una escuela, cualquier estructura efímera, todas las referencias, cómo involucráis a la comunidad. No sé, gracias. Yo no os conocía, pero voy a seguir vuestro trabajo. Me ha gustado mucho.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Bueno, si no tenéis más preguntas ahora, ya podremos seguir hablando de todo lo que hemos visto expuesto de una manera informal, ¿no? Así que ya no.